Nostalgia can be an illuminating thing, a place we can replay the past with our own private filter. It's warm and welcoming, but lean too hard and you can suffocate the here and now. Let's hop aboard the magic school bus and pop back to 2004, when Garden State was soon to find its way to every dorm room DVD collection. A swelling heart of indie rock introspection and unchecked emotional baggage, it was Clerks for the mumbling daydreamers, and I was one of them. Everything was in flux, and here was a character saying, "It's okay if you don't have your shit together." 15 years on, and I'm here to ask, is Garden State a memory to cherish, or a phase long since grown out of? Let's tug at these threads and see if this well-worn jumper falls apart or still holds that familiar warmth. When picturing Garden State, you're most likely to settle on a handful of meticulously composed shots. A shirt made of wall fabric, this medicine cabinet mirror, and swirling crowds all spring to mind. Alongside cinematographer Lawrence Sher, director Zach Braff clearly has a command of visual language beyond mere reverence for his peers. Together with production designer Judy Becker and art director Laura Ballinger, their unified vision coalesces as a Polaroid of hurt, regression, and release. Our protagonist's world is comprised of plain apartments, the beige and greys of a childhood home, and clinical waiting rooms, all predominantly no-frills, sterile environments. Andrew is an island unto himself. For most of the first act, the use of negative space and a reliance on single shots reaffirms this. A man adrift in a threadbare existence. Compare this to the lives of Andrew's closest friends, Mark and Sam. Their cluttered, dog-eared kitsch, highlighting an untethered spontaneity sorely lacking up to this point. When Andrew reconnects with Mark, we start to see a greater reliance on bookended two-shots. So too with the introduction of Sam, her buoyant influence rejuvenating both our hero's journey and the image itself. Medium close-ups of isolation dissipate, while settings and locations become more organic and intimate. Andrew's yearning for human engagement, as well as a connection with the wider world, is reflected by the blocking and cinematography from here on out. As other characters begin to take the foreground, the division between Andrew and the rest of the world is slowly washed away. He's allowing himself to love and to be loved. This shifting anhedonic state is also reflected by the gradually warming colour grading. While desaturated equals repressed and saturated equals content is hardly revelatory as far as stylistic choices are concerned, in fact, I've already done a video on a much better example of this. It's an appreciated touch with suitable thematic context. By the end of the story, the muted empty space is still there, but Andrew is no longer traversing it alone. It's assured filmmaking, especially when considering this is director, writer, actor triple threat Zach Braff's feature directorial debut. While remembered for its bittersweet dialogue and soundtrack, it's at its most meaningful when everything slows up, quiets down, and leaves us to watch the world. Our 20s can be a transitional time. We move from our parents' houses to homes of our own, first loves come and go, while sexual and personal humiliations stack up in our private archive of cringe. All of this is at the core of Garden State. To quote another Zach Braff film,
"Everyone I know is having a crisis. I know you're not supposed to get them until midlife, but I think something's happened to our metabolisms."
It's also when people we love start to pass on. For a small character piece both adored and despised for its insular malaise, death looms over the entire thing. There's a reason we open aboard a crashing airplane and close things out in an airport. In a simple sense, adult life can be boiled down to arrivals and departures. The inciting incident is the death of Andrew's mother, forcing both he and his father to address long-dormant pain and distance. Secondary characters are also faced with these harsh realities. Sam feels responsible for the death of her hamster, Mark works as a crooked gravedigger, and even an annoying acquaintance makes small talk, rattling off everyone they know who may or may not have died.
Who killed themselves?
I was a Gleason kid.
What's nice to see is the relative lack of ceremony about these things. What may well be a personal tragedy is little more than another day at work for those looking on. The drama's real, but it tries to steer clear of stop all the clock sentimentality. Some are quick to pick it all apart as a mopey indulgence of one man's sadness. I'd counter that snide mockery by asking, isn't that a story worth telling? Here we have a functioning, relatively successful young man engaging in a dialogue about his tumultuous mental health, both with medical professionals and his social circle. With most studies highlighting a disproportionately large amount of suicides carried out by men, burying archaic ideas of manning up and elevating mental health acceptance in art and the wider cultural discussion is both necessary and commendable. Andrew's mental state is treated neither as a superpower nor as his sole-defining characteristic. The volume's turned down, lows hit harder, and colours aren't as bright, but he's trying to get by. It's worth applauding any filmmaker for an earnest and honest attempt at representing these conditions in a way that makes room for levity, heart, and considered discussion, even when those noble intentions completely fumble the landing. There's a near-terminal problem at the well-meaning heart of Garden State. Whether we're talking about the screenplay itself or its underlying message, there's a great deal of confusion. Some of that can be hand-waved away by saying the characters are emblematic of this, a mixture of uncertainty and arrested development hindering personal progress. Those are points that can certainly be argued. However, stretched out over an hour and a half, these inconsistencies become excruciating. Out with Andrew's character arc of recovery, acceptance, and confronting his past, structurally the film is a series of vignettes. Braff talks candidly about this.
And the film started as a rough assembly of my favorite true stories from growing up in suburbia.
His screenplay is something of a tonal mixtape. At its best, there's a candid charm to each digression. Small talk is suitably awkward, and social situations are a mixture of alcohol and anxiety. As the running time ticks on, however, it becomes apparent that what should be the connective tissue is actually the bulk of the feature. Contrived excuses for another funny aside from the desk of John Dorian. Often unnecessary and occasionally insufferable, Garden State keeps skipping past genuine moments of deeper thematic truth in order to reach the next oddball escapade. It's anecdotal to a fault, the episodic nature and seeming randomness of each encounter deflating any sense of character growth. Rather than moving forward on a clear path, Andrew and company always take the detour. This lack of focus sadly botches one of the film's initial strengths, turning a thoughtful discussion into a downright harmful life lesson. While I commended Garden State earlier on for tackling mental and emotional distress, how Andrew faces these issues is, for lack of a better term, completely fucked. According to The Wisdom of Garden State, this is how to treat a cocktail of depression, anxiety, and childhood trauma. Self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. Abandon regimented therapy and medications, cold turkey. Get rid of corrosive elements such as routine and structure. Establish a new relationship in a time of deep emotional distress. Not only are all of these terrible, unrealistic, and unconscionably stupid things to romanticize, especially in a film driven by what is heavily implied to have been a suicide, it also stigmatizes support systems and medicinal solutions by constantly comparing these treatments to numbness. Andrew's pearls of wisdom imply that being medicated is somehow a less authentic form of life. Yell into a quarry, then tell someone you love them on the second date as a coping mechanism is downright embarrassing, and squanders the potential of both its screenplay and its primary female character. As an audience, we're privy to many details of Andrew's health and existential woes. Unfortunately, the development of Sam isn't afforded this same care. Her role in Garden State is to pose as an attractive and welcoming alternative to Andrew's insular, arm's-length living. She's a stepping stone to a better life, a muse-inspiring clarity, and lifting the most sullen of spirits. Sam, as defined by Nathan Rabin, is a manic pixie dream girl, a term I truly detest. Unfortunately, critiquing Garden State without using it is like writing about Hey Arnold without saying football head. As a term, it's crass and diminutive, so much so Rabin has gone on the record apologizing for coining it. using the substance of Rabin's original argument as intended, to call out misogynistic depictions of women as characters who exist solely to enable, enrich, and enlighten a man on his personal journey, Sam fits this archetype. That being said, let's throw that term in the trash and talk about this issue without the reductionist, short-sighted, sexist sloganeering that comes with it. Sonia Rayo, writing for The Lily, perfectly surmises the problem with Sam's character. The audience isn't privy to much of her life beyond how she can enrich Andrews. This makes her come across as a narrative device rather than a flesh and blood character with her own ambitions. By the end of the film, all we really know is how she makes Andrew feel. It's a waste of an enjoyable performance from an incredible actor, and one that could have delved so much deeper to the benefit of representation, characterization, and defying a harmful trope. Since Garden State first struck a chord with those old enough to have a MySpace account, Zach Braff has gone on to star in more thought-provoking and balanced features. While it's not without its own issues surrounding gender representation, The Last Kiss covers much of the same ground, albeit with more nuance, consequence, and brutal honesty.
Are you out of your fucking mind? Are you out of your fucking mind? Fuck you! Fuck you!
The High Cost of Living is also up there as one of the best projects he's been involved with. As for writing and directing, Wish I Was Here is a spiritual successor to his debut in the exact ways you don't want. Oh cool, now I can choke down the exact same problems, but with more redundant fantasy sequences. Although it did give us this perfect headline, so there's that. Garden State is a strange artifact. For every bungled opportunity and eye-rolling aside, there shines through a stark image or genuinely affecting moment. Asking whether or not it holds up isn't as simple as how much I enjoy it after 15 years. If anything, it's a testament to how much I've grown since its release. In some ways, I'm more discerning of its many faults, in others, quicker to forgive its youthful ambitions. What I can say for certain is this: let's finally take this film down from its pedestal of indie royalty, but also stop holding it as some sort of twee hipster scapegoat. It's just a film, an okay film. While the memory shines brighter than the reality of actually watching it, when it hits just right, that nostalgic spark still holds some warmth. Thank you to Writing on Games for his never-ending support, and to everyone sharing, liking, and subscribing. With your invaluable assistance, we're going to take this channel from small to slightly less small. Hit us up in the comments or via social media for a chat about anything, and we'll be back soon with another deep dive into the duck-filled pond of cinema. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.